Some tenants of subsidized housing units in Watson Lake, Yukon say they are stressed and confused after almost getting evicted from their homes. Around 1,400 people live in Watson Lake, and the community is facing a housing shortage. The units in question are known as Tintina Housing. About 40 tenants live there. In September, those tenants were told they may be evicted. 19 units were up for sale. Then a month later, the tenants were told the sale wasn't happening and no one would be evicted. The landlord of the units is consulting giant Deloitte. The Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation stepped in to stop the eviction. Here to make sense of all of this is the CBC's Luke Carroll. He was in Watson Lake last week. He joins me now live from Whitehorse. So Luke, tell us what Tintina Housing is and why Deloitte runs it.
Yeah, Megan. So Tintina Housing was a nonprofit organization that was started in the 1980s. It accessed a type of federal funding that was specific to providing housing for Indigenous people living off reserve. But in 1998, that organization was taken to court by the CMHC, and in the end, Deloitte was appointed to be the receiver. So Deloitte was ordered to be the landlord and continue to operate the homes as was intended, which is low-income housing for Indigenous people, and that's how it's been used, Megan.
So why were the tenants initially told that they might be evicted?
So in late September, the tenants received a letter from Deloitte saying that their homes, their units, were being put up for sale. And that if a new buyer purchased them and decided to discontinue this program, they could be evicted. And if no one purchased the homes as well, by a certain date, they were going to be evicted. Deloitte wrote that the homes would be decommissioned and not re-rented. Now, I got this information from speaking with a few different tenants. One of those tenants is Colleen Dennis. She's lived in her home for over 20 years and raised 5 kids there. She currently lives with 2 of them and her aging father.
You know, majority of us don't have, the ability to go into a mortgage, because if that was possible, I'm quite sure a lot of us would have been. Is there units around here big enough for all of us? Right now, I don't know. And then it's not like there's any other different housing to rent.
And this was a reaction I heard from a lot of tenants that, if this eviction had taken place, they don't know what they would have done, Megan.
Do we know why the sale was ultimately stopped?
Yeah, so the CMHC is who ultimately stopped the sale. They let tenants know as soon as they got wind that the sale was taking place that they would be intervening. They sent tenants a letter that read, "We do not support the receiver carrying out the sale process or issuing any eviction notice." And shortly after that, the sale was stopped. The CMHC confirmed as much with me in an email, but wouldn't say how they were able to stop the sale. A spokesperson wrote that the CMHC opposed the sale of these homes and successfully requested a halt to the sale process. So I looked through the original court documents for when Deloitte took over, and there were some details provided in it. Deloitte essentially requires court approval in order to sell these units because ultimately they're the landlords, they're not the owners of the property. So I reached out to Deloitte for details on this, and they refused to share any. A spokesperson wrote, "We are unable to comment further beyond what is posted to our Deloitte insolvency page."
So what would the impact have been then, Luke, if the tenants were evicted?
Yeah, so I spoke with a former housing coordinator in Watson Lake. I spoke with the Deloitte Council in nearby Lower Post. I spoke with multiple tenants, both former and current, and I spoke with the mayor of Watson Lake.
We have a housing shortage as it is, especially when we're talking about affordable housing and the rental market. Those 2 areas specifically were especially short.
Everyone I spoke with said the same thing, that, if these evictions took place, it would have been disastrous, largely because of what the homes did. They served a vulnerable population that didn't have many other options. These were primarily Indigenous people living in low-income housing who were largely not part of the nearby First Nation, Megan.
Okay, thank you, Luke. That was the CBC's Luke Carroll reporting live in Whitehorse.